Hi, it's Claire from Cluesy. Thanks for tuning into my frequency today. Welcome to week 4 of Tradie month. Just want to give a big shout out to all the tradespeople out there. You know, I've got a lot of friends in the trade industry and they are all amazing people and they work really hard to ensure that we have a lot of comforts and that things just work. So again, big shout out to you girls and guys. Thank you so much. So today I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the exposure risks that tradespeople face and what the consequences of those will be and what we can do about them. So I guess for me, the most obvious risk that tradespeople face is injury. I will get more into that next week. I wanted to give like a whole segment around injury and injury prevention, but that is the number one health problem that tradespeople face. And there's a lot of reasons why that occurs. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about maybe some of the things that people aren't aware of, like the chemical exposure that tradespeople are exposed to. So we all know about asbestos. That's the most common one. Luckily, it shouldn't be in any building materials these days, but you know, you never know who's making the stuff. There's also carpenters or builders that are using sanding machines. They inhale a lot of sawdust. There's a lot of chemicals in wood. Now, you know, a lot of the wood that we use, take for example, I know I'm always talking about Queensland, but up here we have to termite protect everything. So a lot of our structural woods and things have been treated to become rot resistant and termite resistant. So imagine sanding that down and all those fumes are coming in. Then there's the chemicals in paint. There's the chemicals in paint stripper, in concrete, in just about everything that we do. There's like, you know, the coating around electrical wires, all of that has a toxic element to it. And most of the chemicals that we get exposed to are not tested for safety on humans. So what are the consequences of having high chemical load? Well, it's like anything I've talked about before. The impact on your liver and your lymphatic system is extraordinary. This creates inflammation throughout the body, and then you'll find that you won't recover from your injuries well. Your knees will give up when you're 40 because you've been a tiler and you haven't looked after yourself. Your back gives out, all your connective tissue. Lo and behold, you end up with some horrific lung disease like asbestosis, or there's another one that you can get that's people that sandblast stone can get a buildup of silica and stuff in the lungs. And chemical exposure can lead to things like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's and things like that. So you really need to minimize your exposure. So, you know, if you're going to get laughed at on the work site for wearing a respirator mask, if you can get them these days, because they're probably like a needle in a haystack trying to find them these days, but wear the mask. Who cares if your mate's laughing at you, because you're the one that's not going to be sick. You don't want to inhale all of those fumes. Wear gloves, because not only will they protect you if, you know, an accidental saw goes mishap and it can slow the blade down before it takes your finger off, but the skin absorbs these chemicals when you touch them. So just wear gloves. Wear safety goggles so the stuff's not getting in your eyes. Just wear your personal protection. And it doesn't matter if you get laughed at. You know, like I'm a healthcare professional. I've been a nurse for 25 years. Could you imagine I didn't want to put on my gloves and gown and respirator mask when I was caring for somebody who had tuberculosis who was coughing up all this stuff because I didn't want to get laughed at because I looked funny? Could you imagine? So why should it be any different for a tradesperson? Wear your protective gear. If it's super hot outside, just be hydrated. Still put your mask on. Like, it's not worth your health long term. So that's just a little bit about chemicals and how it impacts your lymphatic system and your liver. I talk about the lymphatic system and the liver all the time because they are key. And we talked last week about those after work habits that can also impact your liver. So really just take care. And there's also a high amount of smokers in the trade environment too. So, you know, you're just adding the chemical load to your body. So you maybe want to think about that as well. Another thing is heavy metals. So people that work with metal, like welders or fitters and turners and things like that, they have a high exposure to metal. You've got your welding mask on, yes, but you don't wear your respirator underneath. Often if you're welding, you're wearing gloves, of course, but often when you're working with the cleaning side of metal and a lot of panel beaters and stuff like that, they don't wear gloves. So the heavy metals that you get exposed to, once again, what do they affect? They affect your liver and your lymphatic system, and they can also affect your nervous system and make that function differently. So you really want to just be, I guess the key here is to always be wearing your PPE or try and use materials that aren't as toxic. There's electrical exposure. So, yes, there's the obvious, I'm going to get electrocuted or burnt from a live wire or something like that. But what you don't realize too is the radiation that's coming off electrical wires, especially, in substations and things, if you're working in those, they can have a very negative effect on your nervous system, and you can end up with nervous system dysfunction later in life, like your Parkinson's or your PSP and things like that. There's also dust exposure, which I've kind of talked a little bit about with the people that use sanders and stuff like that, but cleaners, anybody that's, working in, sort of a mining environment and things like that, there's a lot of dust and heavy metals in the air there. And of course, another exposure that you've got is faulty equipment. So always make sure you're checking your equipment. It's like, a pilot always checks the plane before you take off. So you should have that, a little checklist that all the safety things you need to check before you start work for the day, just to inspect your tools. And if they're faulty, replace them. Because, it's not worth your injury. If you think it's not going to happen to you, it probably will. And then another one that people often don't think of is the psychological impact that affects tradespeople. So a big one that I know about is lack of people paying. There's a lot of tradesmen out there that have to chase payments from, so whether it's subcontractors or whether it's clients. People just don't like to pay, and that puts enormous stress on tradespeople, because they've got families, they've got businesses to run, they've got lives to lead too, and if they're doing all this work and not getting paid for it, it can have a huge impact on their mental health. And also, the hours that they work, they start really quite early. People can get really mean and nitpicky about you call in these tradespeople experts, they do the job, and then you try to tell them that it wasn't done properly, but you're not the expert. So that sort of hits them mental health wise as well. And I know in the construction industry, if you look at the stats there alone, every 2 days a construction worker commits suicide. So there's a massive mental health component that we need to keep in mind when it comes to tradespeople as well. So I hope you learn a little bit about some of the exposure risks that tradies are exposed to. If you are a tradie, please take precautions. I also would recommend that you keep your liver and your lymphatic system working. It's your sewage system, it's your immune system. You want it to be working the best. So of course I'm going to recommend you see an A&F practitioner, but I've also recommended infrared saunas and things like that you can do that can help your body to detoxify from all these things, and have a good diet and things like that. So basically the bottom line is look after yourself, reduce the risks that you're exposed to, and come and see me and we'll make sure that you're in top-notch health. All right, happy Tradies Month. Bye.